Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're diving into Vida y Vivir,
Okay.
Life and Living, as explored by Jose Covo.
That's right.
Now we're going to be taking a look at excerpts from his work.
Yeah.
And he really makes you think about the relationship between those abstract ideas of life
Right.
and the actual concrete reality of
Yeah.
living it.
Covo immediately draws a distinction between these two.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not just a philosophical concept.
Huh?
He paints this really vivid picture
Oh, wow.
that makes you feel the tension.
He doesn't let you off easy, does he?
He doesn't know.
So on the one hand, you
Yeah.
have life,
Right.
the grand plan, the potential, all those big ideas that we have
Yeah.
of what life should be.
Right.
But then there's living,
Yeah.
the day-to-day with all of its
And
messiness,
nitty-gritty.
the contradictions.
And he uses this
Yeah.
striking imagery to really drive this home. Oh, really?
Yeah, he says life occurs elsewhere. Here we live without being in life. Living is not life, but life is in living like a ghost.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like we're haunting the very idea of life that we're trying to create.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This is
that's...
profound.
It's a little unsettling when you put it like that.
Yeah, it is.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
how do you, as the listener, experience this tension? Is there ever a disconnect
Yeah.
between the life that you envision
Right.
and the one that you're actually living?
I mean, I think that's a question that we all grapple with.
Right.
But, Covo doesn't just leave us hanging.
Okay.
He does offer some guidance in the form of values.
Okay.
He sees these as a bridge between the abstract life
Right.
and the concrete living.
Yeah.
And they act like a compass,
Oh.
pointing us in the right direction.
So it's not just about
Yeah.
having a set of values.
Yeah.
It's about actively seeking them out.
Absolutely.
He emphasizes that, it's an ongoing search.
Right.
We discover value in life when we look for it in living, and vice versa.
Oh,
It's this dynamic process.
interesting.
What we value influences the choices that we make and ultimately shapes the kind of life that we create.
So it's not a one-and-done kind of deal.
No,
Values are constantly evolving as we do.
that's right.
Okay.
It's not about arriving at,
Yeah.
this perfect static set of values.
Yeah.
It's about being open to growth and refinement,
Yeah.
allowing our values to evolve
Yeah.
as we gain new experiences and insights.
Right. And speaking of gaining insights,
Yeah.
this is where his ideas about
Hmm.
different types of ideas come in.
Okay.
He talks about lived ideas and vital ideas.
Yeah.
Can you explain those a bit more?
Sure. So
Sorry.
think of lived ideas
Yeah.
as the wisdom that we gather from experience,
Yeah.
the lessons we learn through trial and error,
Right.
through actually engaging with the world.
So they're grounded in reality, what we've actually lived through.
Yeah. And then you have vital ideas,
Okay.
which are these grand aspirations,
Right.
the ideals that we strive for.
Right.
It's the big picture concepts.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be a bit absolute,
Okay.
even a little unrealistic.
And I remember he doesn't shy away
He does.
making a bold statement about this.
Yeah.
He says, the idea lived is healthy. The vital idea is sick.
Right.
So it's almost as if clinging to vital ideas without the grounding of lived ideas
Wow.
can be detrimental.
It's provocative, for sure. It really highlights the potential danger of, chasing after ideals
Yeah.
without considering the limitations of reality, the compromises that we inevitably have to make in living.
Right.
It's that youthful idealism that we often see,
Yeah.
which, while it can be a driving force, needs to be tempered by experience.
He seems to be suggesting that there needs to be a balance between the two.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like having both the fuel and the map. Vital ideas provide the energy and direction, while lived ideas help us navigate the terrain of reality.
I like that.
Yeah.
Without that balance, we can easily get lost
Exactly.
or disillusioned.
Or both.
It makes me think about those times I've been so focused on the vital ideas,
Yeah.
the big dreams, that I overlooked the practicalities of living
Yeah.
and ended up feeling frustrated or discouraged.
Right.
I'm sure our listener can relate to that in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What are some vital ideas that have shaped their life,
Right.
and how has experienced those lived ideas affected how they approach them now?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
And as we continue to explore this duality,
Yeah.
Covo suggests there's another parallel at play,
Yeah.
but on a more personal level.
Right.
The lived self and the vital self?
Yes, sounds intriguing. I think we've all felt this in some way.
It's like there are two versions of ourselves that are constantly interacting.
Right.
The lived self is who we are right now, shaped by all our experiences and choices.
Right.
It's the you that exists in this moment.
Okay.
And the vital self
Yeah.
is who we aspire to be, that idealized version we hold in our minds.
Right.
And we're constantly trying to bridge the gap between the two.
It's like looking at those perfectly curated social media profiles and feeling inadequate
Exactly.
compared to the vital self they project versus appreciating your own accomplishments and the person you are right now,
Right.
the lived self.
It's a constant back and forth, isn't it?
It is.
Kovo calls it the yo-yo of self.
Oh, wow.
We bounce between feeling aligned and feeling like we're falling short, experiencing guilt or inadequacy when we don't live up to the expectations of our vital self. It's a very human struggle, I think.
So how do we find a sense of wholeness amidst all of this tension?
Yeah, well, this is where he introduces the concept of integration.
Okay.
It's not about erasing the vital self, but about finding a way to weave it together with the reality of our lived self.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is. And to illustrate this, Kovo brings in a surprising element, gist, which is a form of humor, but deeper than just a joke.
That's an interesting twist.
It is.
I wouldn't have expected that in a philosophical discussion about life and living.
It might seem unexpected, but Kovo uses it to highlight how chist disrupts our carefully constructed integration.
Interesting.
It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, often through absurdity, helping us see the world and ourselves in a new light.
Could you give us a specific example of this from the text?
Absolutely.
Something that really brings this idea to life.
Okay, so on page 55, he writes, "The man with the toothache thinks only of his tooth. The chist about the toothache makes us forget the pain and think of all the men who have had toothaches."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of being solely focused on my own pain, humor can help me see the bigger picture. Connect with others who have shared similar experiences.
Exactly.
It is fascinating.
And Kovo suggests that, the shift in perspective, even if it's momentary, is a crucial step in the process of integration. It's a way of accepting the complexities and contradictions of life, finding a bit of lightness in the midst of the struggle.
Have you ever had a moment where humor helped you cope?
Oh, yeah.
With a difficult situation?
Absolutely.
Or maybe even see a problem from a different angle?
I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Those moments where laughter breaks through the tension and suddenly the problem doesn't seem quite as insurmountable.
Exactly. And Kovo would argue that those moments aren't just a distraction. They're actually helping us move towards a more genuine and fulfilling integration of life and living.
Yeah.
It's like humor gives us permission to step back, take a breath, and see things with a bit more perspective.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this idea of perspective is central to his exploration of truth, beauty, and meaning, which we'll delve into further as we continue this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Kovo links these concepts, truth, beauty, and meaning, back to that tension between life and living. And he sees truth not as this fixed thing, but as this kind of dynamic bridge between the two, constantly evolving through our experiences. He even says truth is the moment before turbulence. It's that feeling of anticipation, the constant adaptation to those unexpected twists and turns that living throws at us.
I like that. It's not about clinging to some rigid definition of truth, but being open to its ever-changing nature as we move through life.
Now, when it comes to beauty, he describes it as this kind of qualitative truth. Something that resonates so deeply within us, often without a logical explanation.
So it's how something makes us feel.
Yeah.
Which is fitting considering how much he emphasizes, vivid imagery and emotional impact to help us grasp these abstract philosophical ideas.
Definitely.
He's definitely not afraid to appeal to our emotions, is he?
He's not.
It makes it a lot more engaging than reading a dry philosophical text. So when it comes to meaning, Kovo highlights the role of virtue. He argues that striving to live a virtuous life,
right,
pursuing qualities we deem valuable, connects us to something larger than ourselves.
It does.
Hold on, I remember we didn't get to unpack this as much as we could have.
We didn't.
It feels like a key piece of the puzzle.
You're right. Let's give it the attention it deserves.
Okay.
So Kovo seems to be suggesting that virtue helps us bridge that gap between the lived self and the vital self.
Right.
It's not about achieving this perfect state,
Okay.
but it's about this ongoing pursuit
Right.
of qualities that we admire,
Yeah.
finding purpose in that, striving.
It's like asking, what qualities do you consider virtuous?
Exactly.
How do those virtues guide your choices and actions? So, for example, for me, honesty is a virtue I highly value.
Yeah.
So I try to act with integrity in all areas of my life.
Right.
And it gives me a sense of purpose, even when things get tough.
That's a great example of how virtue can translate into a very real sense of direction and meaning in our daily lives.
Now, remember that concept of the first name and last name we talked about?
Of course.
The raw essence versus the ultimate abstraction.
Yes. It was very memorable.
Way to frame that journey between pure being and our attempts to, make sense of it all.
Well, Kovo uses that same idea to explore how words themselves evolve. He suggests that each word has a first name representing its essential meaning. That raw seed of understanding before it's been shaped by language and culture.
And then over time, as the word gets used and interpreted, that first name evolves into the last name, representing the most abstract and complex version of that word. It's like taking that seed of meaning and letting it grow into this intricate tree with branches, reaching in all sorts of directions.
So our understanding of words isn't static.
No, it's not.
It's constantly changing.
Exactly. Kovo is highlighting this very dynamic nature of language. And he suggests that our engagement with words is this constant back and forth between those two poles, trying to grasp the essence of the first name, while recognizing the ever-evolving complexity of the last name.
That's a pretty mind-bending concept.
It is.
It's like we're both explorers and cartographers of language, constantly discovering these new meanings while trying to create a map of something that's inherently fluid and ever-changing.
You got it. And he argues that it's this very process, this embrace of ambiguity that leads us to a richer understanding. Meaning isn't some fixed point. It's an ongoing creation.
So when we try to pin down the exact meaning of a word, we're kind of missing the point.
I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
He wants us to be comfortable with that ambiguity. To recognize that language, like life itself, is constantly evolving.
This makes me think about how we define ourselves, too. If we apply this first name, last name concept to our own identities.
It's almost like we're born with this first name representing our pure potential. And then through our experiences, choices, and the stories we tell, we build upon that, creating this last name.
Exactly.
This complex narrative that shapes who we are.
That's a fantastic connection. You're essentially describing his idea of the lived self and the vital self. Using this framework. It's like we're both the raw material and the sculptor. Shaping our identities through the choices we make and the experiences that we embrace.
And just as words can have these multiple layers of meaning, so too can our lives. There's that essential first name self that just I-S. And then there's that last name self. The one we create through our interactions with the world.
And it's never a finished product, right?
No.
It's constantly evolving as we encounter new experiences, relationships, and challenges. It's the beauty of living.
This whole conversation reminds me of something I read recently. About how our understanding of the universe is also constantly evolving. What do you think Kovo would say about that?
Well, he has a lot to say about the universe.
Does he?
He does. In fact, he goes so far as to call it the center of integration.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
It is.
But how does he even begin to define that? It seems so vast and complex.
Well, remember how we talked about integration? As this process of aligning our living with our concept of life?
Yes, that idea of bridging the gap between our everyday experiences and those grand ideals that we hold.
Well, he takes that idea and he expands it to a cosmic scale.
Wow.
He's suggesting that the universe itself is this ultimate source of integration.
Okay.
The force that brings order and coherence to everything.
So it's like the universe is this giant orchestra.
I like that.
And our lives are these individual instruments playing along.
But it's not just about playing along.
Right.
He argues that the more we align ourselves with this universal force, the more integrated we become.
Right.
Not just within ourselves, but within this grand scheme of existence.
But how do we even begin to comprehend something so vast and abstract?
Right.
Do we just accept it on faith?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
He suggests that we access this understanding through what he calls integrated causes, which are essentially our individual interpretations and understandings of the universe.
Right.
They're shaped by our own experiences, beliefs, and perspectives, like unique lenses through which we each view the cosmos.
So it's like everyone has their own personal story about how the universe works. They're an integrated cause.
And these stories aren't static.
Right.
They evolve and change as we learn and grow, as we encounter new information and perspectives.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Our understanding of the universe is constantly evolving.
Right.
Just like our understanding of words and ourselves.
Precisely. And he emphasizes the importance of being open to different perspectives.
Okay.
He introduces this concept of a matrix interintegrational.
Wow.
Which is essentially a web of interconnected realities where each individual's integrated cause intersects and interacts with countless others.
So it's kind of like a cosmic social media platform.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah.
Where everyone's sharing their own unique take on the universe.
And just as social media can connect us, it can also create echo chambers.
Right.
And divisions.
Exactly. So Kova reminds us that it's crucial to be aware of the potential for bias and distortion within this matrix integrational.
So how do we navigate this web of interconnected realities without getting lost in our own limited perspectives?
Well, he stresses the importance of humility.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our own understanding is just one piece of the puzzle and being willing to listen to other perspectives, even those that challenge our deeply held beliefs.
It's like expanding our own integrated cause by actively seeking out diverse perspectives and engaging with ideas that might initially seem foreign or even uncomfortable.
You've got it, and he argues that it's through this process of engagement and expansion that we can move towards a more comprehensive, nuanced understanding of the universe, recognizing that truth is something we collectively create through dialogue and the sharing of perspectives.
So it's less about, winning arguments and proving ourselves right, and more about contributing to this collective tapestry.
I think that beautifully captures his point. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, the way that our individual understandings contribute to this larger, ever-evolving understanding of the universe.
He doesn't shy away from applying this to human history either.
No, he doesn't.
He talks about how certain periods, particularly those marked by, great artistic or scientific advancements, have a particular kind of integration at play.
He calls them golden ages.
Okay.
These moments in history driven by a shared desire to push boundaries, explore new frontiers of knowledge and connect with something larger than themselves.
Think of the Renaissance, for example.
Exactly.
With its explosion of art science and these new ways of thinking.
It's like there's this collective energy, a shared sense of purpose that fuels these periods of rapid innovation and creativity.
And he contrasts these golden ages
with
what he calls epochs without brilliance. Times when societies become more focused on maintaining existing structures and hierarchies than on exploring new possibilities.
So it's like there's this tension between exploring new frontiers and solidifying what's already been established. This dance between innovation and preservation.
But how do we know if we're in a golden age? Or an epoch without brilliance? What are the signs?
Well, he points to a lack of humility, resistance to new ideas, and a preoccupation with power and control. as kind of hallmarks of those less brilliant times.
Interesting.
It's like a society becomes trapped in its own echo chamber, clinging to these outdated beliefs and systems while the world continues to evolve around them.
It's almost like a fear of the unknown, a reluctance to step outside their comfort zone and embrace new ways of seeing and being.
Exactly. And he argues that this fear ultimately hinders progress, both individually and collectively. True growth requires a willingness to embrace change, challenge assumptions, and continuously seek new perspectives.
So it's not about blindly accepting every new idea.
No.
It's about cultivating this discerning but open mind.
Exactly.
A willingness to engage with the unfamiliar and to question even our most cherished beliefs.
That's right. It's about recognizing that knowledge and understanding are constantly evolving and that we need to be adaptable if we want to thrive in a world that's constantly changing.
Now, Kovo also has some interesting things to say about the role of writers.
He does.
In all of this.
Yeah.
He sees them as these potential leaders, shapers of thought.
Absolutely. He argues that writers have this unique ability to influence how people think and perceive the world. You know, they can either reinforce existing structures and beliefs or they can challenge them, inspire their readers to expand their horizons and embrace these new ways of seeing.
So it's like writers have the power to shape those integrated causes we talked about, the way people understand and interpret the universe.
Precisely. And he suggests that the truly great writers are those who are able to tap into the universal. To articulate truths that resonate across time and culture.
Wow.
He even says, the good writer works to reach his time. The great one is the epoch that must reach him.
It's like they're transmitting something timeless, something that speaks to the core of the human experience.
Exactly.
Regardless of the specific context.
And it's that ability to connect with the universal that makes great writing so enduring.
But Kovo also acknowledges that we might be living in this somewhat uninspired time, an era where many writers are more concerned with reinforcing existing structures and catering to market demands than pushing the boundaries of thought and expression.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
He expresses concern about the lack of humility and courage in contemporary writing. You know, this fear of challenging the status quo and embracing the unknown. He even laments, we know too much to be humble again.
It's like we've become complacent, more focused on comfort and familiarity than on exploring these new and potentially unsettling ideas.
That's one way to see it. And he argues that this complacency is a symptom of stagnation, a sign of an epoch without brilliance. You know, we need this resurgence of humility and courage if we want to break free from this intellectual rut and spark this new era of creativity and innovation.
So how do we as individuals contribute to this resurgence?
Yeah, that's the question.
How do we cultivate this sense of humility and courage that he believes is so crucial for progress?
Well, he suggests that we start by questioning our assumptions. You know, being open to perspectives that differ from our own. And embracing the unknown with curiosity and wonder.
It's about reclaiming that sense of childlike awe and wonder.
Exactly. That willingness to explore without preconceived notions or expectations.
And Kovo believes that it's through this spirit of open-minded exploration that we can break free from the limitations of our current understanding and unlock new possibilities for growth and transformation, both individually and collectively.
You've captured it perfectly. And it's this very posture, this willingness to embrace the unknown that lies at the heart of his exploration of Vida y Vivir.
You know, Kovo brings back the first name and last name concept, but this time he uses it to describe the journey from raw existence to abstract conceptualization.
It's one of those ideas that keeps unfolding and revealing these new layers of meaning.
He suggests we imagine the first name as representing that pure, unshaped essence of life. The raw impulso he talks about. It's just IS, without any need for labels or categories.
So it's like that state of pure potentiality before it's molded or defined by anything.
And then the last name represents the ultimate abstraction, the point where meaning becomes almost infinitely complex.
He describes it as the idea of the idea of the idea.
Oh, wow.
Okay. It's our attempt to grasp the ungraspable.
Yeah.
To impose order and meaning onto that raw first name essence.
It's almost like the last name is the map we create.
That's such a vivid analogy. It captures that tension between our desire for certainty and this inherently fluid nature of reality.
And he encourages us.
He does.
To embrace that tension.
Right.
To recognize that our understanding of life, even of ourselves, is always in flux.
So it's not about arriving at a final definitive answer.
Right.
It's more about being comfortable with the journey, the constant exploration and discovery that comes from navigating between those two poles, the first name and the last name.
Yeah.
The pure being and the abstract understanding.
Precisely. And it's through that journey, that willingness to embrace the unknown, that we expand our consciousness and come closer to a more integrated experience of life.
It's a dance, isn't it? It is. Between the raw and the refined, the concrete and the abstract.
And Kovo would argue that it's a dance worth learning.
Absolutely.
Now, Kovo also touches on the spiritual dimension of this journey.
Okay.
Particularly as it relates to this first name, last name idea.
Okay.
He draws a parallel between that raw essence, the first name, and the concept of the universal cause.
Yeah.
That underlying force that drives all of creation.
That's a fascinating connection.
Yeah.
He suggests that the first name, that pure seed of being, is a reflection of this universal cause. Okay.
This tiny spark of that infinite creative energy that's within each of us.
It's like we all carry a piece of the divine within us, a fragment of that ultimate source that connects us to everything in the universe.
And he argues that the more we tap into this connection, the more we can access this sense of meaning and purpose that transcends our individual lives.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we're not isolated, but rather integral parts of this vast and interconnected web.
And then the last name, the abstract self, becomes our attempt to make sense of this connection, to articulate our place within that grand cosmic scheme.
Precisely. It's like we're trying to translate the language of the universe into human terms.
Yeah.
Using words and concepts to grasp something that ultimately defies definition.
It's a noble effort.
It is.
But it sounds like a challenging one.
He acknowledges the limitations of this endeavor.
Reminding us that our conceptual frameworks are just that. Frameworks. They're not the reality itself, but rather our attempts to comprehend it.
So it's about finding that balance again.
Exactly.
Holding on to the abstract, last name understanding. While not losing sight of that raw experiential first name reality.
He encourages us to cultivate humility in this pursuit.
Okay.
To remember that we're always learning, always discovering new facets of the universe and ourselves.
Right.
It's about embracing the mystery, acknowledging that there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover.
It sounds like a lifelong journey.
It is.
And not one with a fixed destination.
The journey itself is the destination. It's not about arriving at this final answer, but about embracing the ongoing process of discovery and integration.
And finding joy in that process, That constant back and forth. The first name and the last name, between pure being and abstract understanding.
Precisely. It's a dance that never ends. A journey that leads us ever deeper into the heart of Vida y Vivir.
And Kovo doesn't stop there.
He doesn't.
He dives into the very nature of ideas, challenging our usual assumptions about where they come from.
Okay.
He suggests that ideas don't exist independently of those who perceive them. That they come into being. Through the act of perception itself.
It's a radical concept.
It is.
It's like we're co-creators of the world around us. Our very act of perceiving, bringing these ideas and concepts into existence.
So instead of there being this pre-existing realm of ideas that we tap into, Kovo is saying that we're actively involved in their creation.
Exactly.
Through the way we experience and interact with the world.
He argues that it's our engagement with the world.
Okay.
That active participation in the process of perception, that gives birth to ideas. It's what sets us apart from other animals. This ability to abstract, conceptualize, and create these worlds of meaning out of our experiences.
It's like we're not just passively receiving information. We're actively shaping it,
Exactly.
molding it,
Yeah.
using our minds to turn the raw data of our senses into coherent and meaningful experiences.
And he emphasizes that this active engagement is crucial for growth, both individually and collectively.
Right.
It's through this constant dialogue between our perceptions and the world that we expand our understanding and ultimately evolve as a species.
That's a pretty empowering idea when you think about it.
It is.
We're not just cogs in a machine.
We're not.
We're active participants in the ongoing creation of reality.
I think that's the beauty of his philosophy. You know, he constantly challenges us to see ourselves as agents of creation, as beings with the power to shape and influence the world around us.
Now, to help us navigate this complex terrain of perception and knowledge, Covo brings in a few key distinctions.
He does. One of the key ones is between a priori and a posteriori.
Okay, I've heard of those.
Yeah, they sound intimidating, but they're really quite simple. So a priori refers to knowledge we possess, independent of experience. While a posteriori refers to knowledge we gain through experience.
So it's like knowing that fire is hot.
Exactly.
Without actually having to touch it.
Right.
That would be a priori.
That would be a priori.
But knowing that a particular chili pepper is spicy only after you've tasted it.
Right.
That would be a posteriori.
Perfect examples.
Yeah.
And Covo challenges this traditional view of a priori knowledge.
Really?
Yeah, suggesting that even our most fundamental assumptions about the world are shaped by our experiences.
Interesting.
You know, he argues there's no such thing as pure, unadulterated a priori knowledge.
So even things like logic and mathematics, which seem so abstract and universal, are ultimately rooted in our interactions with the world.
Exactly. And this insight has these profound implications for how we approach knowledge and understanding.
Right.
It encourages us to always be questioning our assumptions. Recognizing that even our most cherished beliefs are shaped by our limited perspectives.
It's a call for intellectual humility.
A call for intellectual humility, a reminder that we're always learning, always encountering new aspects of reality that challenge our existing frameworks.
And this humility, this willingness to embrace uncertainty and constantly revise our understanding is key to both individual and collective growth, according to Covo.
It is, you know, it's not about clinging to dogma or fixed beliefs. But about cultivating this flexible and adaptive mindset.
So it's about being open to new information, willing to embrace complexity and ambiguity. It's about recognizing that learning is a lifelong journey, and that the most fulfilling life is one that's constantly evolving and expanding.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you.
And this brings us to another concept that Covo uses to illustrate this interconnectedness of knowledge and experience, the anthropic principle.
I've heard of that. But could you refresh my memory?
Sure.
What is the anthropic principle exactly?
In simple terms, it states that the universe we observe must be compatible with the conscious life that observes it. The fact that we exist as observers places certain limits on the kinds of universes that are possible.
So it's like we're looking at the universe through this very specific lens. And that lens inevitably shapes the way we perceive and understand it.
Exactly. Covo uses this to further challenge the idea of this pre-existing realm of ideas. He suggests that the very ideas that we perceive arise from our unique position as observers within this universe.
It's like we're co-creating reality.
It is.
Through the act of observation?
Yeah.
Our very presence influences the universe that we perceive.
That's one way to think about it.
Right.
And it highlights this interconnectedness between observer and observed, subject and object.
It's a bit mind-bending, but also incredibly exciting.
It is.
It suggests that we have a more active role in shaping reality than we might have imagined.
Exactly. And it reinforces his call for humility and open-mindedness.
Right.
You know, if our very act of perceiving shapes the universe that we experience, then it becomes even more crucial to be aware of our biases, assumptions, and limitations.
It's a reminder that we're always learning, always discovering new facets of reality, and that the journey of understanding is never ending.
Now, speaking of journeys of understanding, Covo spends a lot of time exploring this concept of abstraction as this fundamental force in shaping how we see the world.
Okay, But what exactly does he mean by abstraction?
Right.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot.
It does.
And it can mean different things in different contexts.
So in this case, he's referring to this process of taking something concrete,
right,
like a specific object or experience, and considering it in a more general, conceptual way.
Okay.
It's this ability to move beyond the immediate sensory experience and grasp this underlying essence or form.
So like when we see a particular dog, we can abstract from its specific breed, size, and color, and recognize it as belonging to the category of dog.
Exactly. That's abstraction in action.
Right.
And he argues that, this ability is crucial to our understanding of the world.
Okay.
It allows us to categorize, to make connections, and to develop these general principles that help us navigate the complexity of our experiences.
It's like we're creating this mental map of the world.
Exactly.
Using abstraction to simplify and organize this massive amount of information we're constantly bombarded with.
But it's important to remember that this mental map isn't static.
Right.
It's constantly evolving as we encounter new experiences and perspectives.
So it's not about creating this rigid system of categories and concepts.
No.
It's about recognizing that our understanding of the world is always in flux, open to revision and refinement.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that, this openness to revision is essential for growth.
Okay.
It's through this ongoing process of abstraction and refinement that we expand our knowledge, deepen our understanding, and evolve as a species.
So abstraction isn't about oversimplifying reality.
No, it's not.
It's about developing increasingly sophisticated and nuanced ways of understanding its complexity.
Precisely. And he sees this pursuit of nuanced understanding as one of the most fulfilling and rewarding aspects of being human.
This brings us back to the first name and last name idea, doesn't it?
It does. He argues that, the first name, that raw, unfiltered experience of being represents this concrete, particular existence of things. Right. It's the world as it is without any conceptual overlays.
It's like the pure sensory data that we experience.
Exactly.
The sights, sounds, smells, and sensations that bombard us at every moment.
And then the last name represents this realm of abstract concepts, the world as we understand it through language and thought.
Right.
It's the world filtered through our perceptions, our interpretations, our conceptual frameworks.
So the last name is our attempt to make sense of the first name.
Exactly.
To impose order and meaning onto the chaos of pure experience.
Precisely. And he suggests that, this journey from first name to last name is this fundamental human process essential to our understanding of both the world and ourselves.
It's like we're constantly translating that raw data of experience into this language of thought, creating this mental map that helps us navigate.
You've got it. And this translation process is this ongoing dialogue, a constant back and forth between the concrete and the abstract.
Yeah, it's not about reaching a final destination.
Yeah, it's not.
It's about embracing the journey.
Exactly.
The ongoing exploration and discovery that comes from navigating this space between the raw and the refined, the concrete and the abstract.
Exactly. And he argues that, it's through this exploration that we expand our consciousness, deepen our understanding, and move closer to a more integrated experience of life.
It's that dance again.
It is.
The interplay between the first name and the last name, between pure being and abstract understanding.
Precisely. And it's a dance that defines what it means to be human, according to Covo.
Now, Covo doesn't just explore the philosophical implications of abstraction.
He doesn't.
He delves into how it shapes human societies and cultures.
That's right. He argues that our ability to abstract is what allows us to create complex social structures, systems of governance, shared belief systems.
Wow.
It's what allows us to cooperate on a large scale to build civilization and transmit knowledge across generations.
It's almost like abstraction is the foundation of human culture.
It is.
This invisible scaffolding that supports our collective achievements.
Precisely. But he emphasizes that, the way that we use abstraction, the specific concepts and categories that we create deeply impact the kind of society that we build.
So it's not a neutral tool.
No, it's not.
It can be used for both good and bad.
Exactly.
Depending on the values and intentions of those who wield it.
That's a crucial point. He argues that we need to be aware of the potential for both creativity and destruction. Right. That's inherent in this human capacity for abstraction.
So it's about using it responsibly, recognizing that the concepts and categories we create have real-world consequences.
Exactly.
Shaping our interactions with each other and the environment.
He calls us to be critically aware of how abstraction is used, both consciously and unconsciously, to shape our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
So it's about becoming more conscious creators of our shared reality, recognizing that the language we use, the concepts we embrace, and the stories that we tell have a real impact on the world we live in.
And to take this a step further, he proposes this even more radical idea that the universe itself is drawn toward abstraction.
Wait a minute. So it's not just humans who are doing the abstracting. The universe itself is in on it.
That's his suggestion. He argues that there's this inherent tendency toward increasing complexity and abstraction in the universe. This kind of cosmic drive towards higher levels of organization.
It's interesting.
And meaning-making.
It's like the universe is trying to understand itself.
I love that way of framing it. And Kovo suggests that humans, with our unique capacity for abstraction, are playing this key role in this grand cosmic drama.
So it's like we're the universe's sense organs.
That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah, its eyes and ears, helping it perceive and understand itself in new and profound ways.
And Kovo would argue that, it's our responsibility as conscious participants in this cosmic evolution to use our capacity for abstraction wisely and creatively.
So it's not just about understanding the world as it is. It's about actively participating in its ongoing creation.
Exactly.
Using our minds to shape reality in ways that are beautiful and beneficial.
And, this creative act of co-creation is for Kovo the ultimate expression of human freedom and responsibility.
It's a pretty daunting task.
It is.
But also incredibly inspiring.
It is.
It suggests that we're not just passive observers in this predetermined universe.
Right.
We're active participants, co-creators of a reality that's constantly evolving.
Exactly. And that realization, that embrace of our creative potential is the key to unlocking a truly meaningful life, according to Kovo.
It's about recognizing that Vida y Vivir aren't separate, but rather two sides of the same coin.
Right.
A dynamic interplay between our inner and outer worlds.
Exactly.
Between our individual experiences and the grand cosmic drama of existence.
And to really delve into this interplay, we need to explore this concept of impulso, which he uses to describe this fundamental force that drives all of creation.
We've touched on impulso before, but I'm curious to hear more about how he defines it.
Yeah.
It seems like such a core concept in his philosophy.
It is a core concept, and like much of his work, it has many facets. So he describes impulso as the qualitative direction of living. It's like this intuitive sense of purpose, this deep inner urge that's propelling us forward.
So it's not just about random actions or reactions. There's a deeper force at play. Guiding us even if we aren't fully conscious of it.
Exactly. And he suggests that impulso isn't limited to humans.
Really?
Yeah, it exists in all living things. This primal drive towards growth, expansion, and self-expression.
So it's almost like the life force itself.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And he believes that this impulso ultimately stems from, the universal cause, that fundamental force driving all of creation.
Right. So we're all connected to this massive cosmic energy field.
We are.
And our individual impulso is like this tiny spark of that infinite creative power.
Precisely, he suggests that, the more we can align ourselves with this impulso, the more we tap into our own creative potential and live a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
That sounds amazing, but also a little daunting.
It can be.
How do we actually do that?
Right, yeah.
How do we connect with this impulso and harness its power in our everyday lives?
Well, he doesn't give us a simple set of rules or a step-by-step guide. He believes it's a process of self-discovery, of paying attention to our own inner impulses and intuitions. It's about trusting the wisdom of our own bodies and minds.
It's like learning to listen to that quiet inner voice.
Exactly.
The one that tells us what feels right and true for us.
Yeah.
Even if it goes against what society expects or what we think we should be doing.
You've hit the nail on the head, and he reminds us that this inner guidance, this impulso, is always there.
Okay.
But we often drown it out.
Yeah, we do.
With all the noise of our thoughts, our fears, and our desires.
It's so easy to get caught up in the external noise, isn't it? We're constantly bombarded with messages.
We are.
Telling us how to think, what to feel, and who to be.
It's true. And, you know, he encourages us to cultivate a sense of inner stillness.
Right, okay.
He suggests that practices like meditation, contemplation, and spending time in nature can help us tune out that external noise and reconnect with that deeper wisdom within.
It's like creating this sanctuary for the soul.
Yeah.
A space to reconnect with our true selves and hear the whispers of our own impulso.
Beautifully put. And he argues that this connection with our inner selves is essential for living a life of authenticity, purpose, and joy.
Now, as we dig deeper into impulso, Koval makes an interesting distinction.
He does.
Between the impulso of primitive humans and the impulso of modern humans.
Right. So he observes that for primitive humans, impulso was more aligned with the natural world.
Okay.
You know, with the rhythms and cycles of nature.
Right.
Survival was a more immediate concern, you know, shaping their lives in this direct way.
So their impulso was more instinctual, driven by basic needs.
Exactly.
Like food, shelter, and protection.
He suggests that with the development of language, abstract thought, and these complex social structures, the human impulso has become increasingly detached from these natural roots.
So it's like we've built this wall between ourselves and the natural world.
Yeah.
We live in a world of artificial constructs and abstractions that often obscure our connection to those deeper rhythms of life.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Koval believes this separation from the natural world has created this sense of alienation and fragmentation in our modern experience.
So it's like we've lost touch with our primal instincts, with that intuitive sense of belonging and interconnection with all of life.
Precisely. And, you know, he argues that this loss of connection has these profound effects on our well-being, both individually and collectively.
Okay.
You know, we need to find ways to reintegrate ourselves with the natural world, to align our impulso with those natural rhythms and cycles.
I think a lot of people are feeling that pull to reconnect with nature these days.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about abandoning all the advancements of civilization, is it?
It's not.
It's more about finding this balance.
That's exactly his point.
Yeah.
You know, it's about finding a more harmonious balance between our inner and outer worlds, between the natural and the artificial.
Yeah.
You know, it's about remembering that we are a part of nature, not separate from it, and that our well-being is deeply tied to the well-being of the planet.
And Koval makes this fascinating connection between impulso and the act of naming.
Right.
He suggests that naming is a way to shape and direct impulso, to bring order and meaning to the raw experience of being.
Yes, he sees naming as this powerful act of creation.
Okay.
You know, it's how we define things, giving them a place in our conceptual understanding of the world.
So it's not just slapping a label on something.
It's not.
It's about imbuing it with meaning.
Exactly.
Giving it a role within our understanding of the universe.
And he suggests that, you know, the way we name things, the words and concepts that we use deeply affect how we perceive and interact with them.
It's like language shapes reality.
It does.
The words we choose create a lens through which we experience the world.
That's right. Koval urges us to be mindful of our language, to remember that words have power. You know, they can shape our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
It's a call for linguistic responsibility.
It is.
The way we speak and write can either contribute to a more just and compassionate world or perpetuate harmful stereotypes and oppressive systems.
Precisely, he encourages us to be these conscious creators of our shared reality. You know, the language that we use, the concepts that we embrace, and the stories we tell ourselves have the power to shape the world we live in.
And as we continue to explore the power of language, Koval brings back that first name and last name concept.
Yes, this time applying it to words themselves.
Okay.
He uses first name to represent that raw, unfiltered essence of a word. It's like that seed of meaning that exists before language and culture have shaped it.
So it's the pure experience of a concept.
Yeah.
Before our minds start to categorize and interpret it.
Exactly. And then you have the last name, which is that ultimate abstraction of the word.
Right.
It's where the meaning becomes incredibly complex and layered.
Oh, wow.
He describes it as the idea of the idea of the idea.
Okay.
You know, that pinnacle of conceptualization where meaning itself becomes abstract.
So the last name represents all of our efforts to understand that raw first name, meaning our attempts to impose order and logic onto that pure experience.
That's a great way to summarize it.
Yeah.
Kovo suggests that, our engagement with language is this constant journey between those two poles.
Yeah.
We're always trying to grasp that pure essence of the first name while acknowledging the ever-evolving complexity of the last name.
It's like we're simultaneously explorers and cartographers of language.
Right.
You're discovering these new territories of meaning while also trying to map something that's constantly in motion.
Kovo believes that this process, embracing that inherent ambiguity, is how we come to this deeper and richer understanding.
Okay.
Meaning isn't fixed.
Right.
It's this dynamic and ever-evolving creation.
This has been quite a journey.
It has.
Kovo's exploration of Vida y Vivir challenges us to think differently, to embrace complexity and the constantly changing nature of reality.
He certainly does. He encourages us
Yeah.
to question our assumptions, to broaden our perspectives, and to find meaning and purpose in that ongoing journey of integration.
And he leaves us with this powerful thought to ponder.
He does.
We think and write to abstract ourselves from living and to make life concrete.
Wow.
It's a reminder that our engagement with ideas, our attempts to make sense of the world, can both distance us from and enrich our experience of life.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
It is.
And it's one we're constantly navigating as we explore these intricacies of Vida y Vivir.
As you go back to your everyday life, consider Kovo's insights. How can you make life more concrete?
Yeah.
Through your actions and your thoughts.
Right.
What steps can you take to bridge that gap between the life you dream of and the life you're living right now?
It's an ongoing challenge, but a worthwhile one.
Yeah.
It's through this kind of exploration, through wrestling with these big questions, that we discover the true richness and depth of Vida y Vivir.
We hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about.
I hope so too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the mysteries of life and living a